welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings from here. Sort of around Inmendham. Yeah, good enough, I think. So the background should be the progress of the garden. It was taken after, the video was taken after it rained pretty hard, so it wasn't, flowers weren't at their best, but whatever. Just for my own record, actually. It's good to know what things look like at a certain time of year, and then the next year you say, hey, things should be further along, or things are behind, or something like that. Really can't see doing this every year, though. Yeah, too much work. Anyway, all the frustrating conversations to be had. So, so I'm sort of done with the Hoffa day, and pretty much with the Piro, we'll see. He's making, 2-minute videos anyway, they're no real content, and nothing responsive to arguments made. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And Snake Plisskenist, I still haven't watched the second 2-hour video he made. And now he's done a video called Principles or something. And that's kind of a good thing. And the principle I've been thinking about a lot lately, just last day or so, is the two wrongs don't make a right kind of thing. Because it just seems it's all over the place, where people try to fix an injustice with an injustice. And especially these MGTOW people, the me is... me, how's it go? Me has got tiny odorous penis or something. A wiener, yeah, tiny odorous wiener, yeah, something like that. It's what I don't know what I don't know what the real acronym is, but anyway, loser, who thinks they're tough, not pussies when they're pussies, little whining pussies. But they're such cheaters. You can see it in the ratings on the videos and stuff that they cheat. And you're saying, well, if you're on the right side, you don't have to cheat. If you're one of the white hat people, you don't load the gun with, extra dynamite or something, and you don't cheat. You don't wear the brass knuckles, and you don't do all the stuff the cheaters do, the bad guys do. And, it's hard to find somebody who isn't, displaying some measure of weakness in their argument because they have to resort to, classically cheaty tactics. So anyways, just something that comes to mind is that, winners don't behave like losers, and, they can afford to gracefully win. So when they don't, you got to wonder whether they cheated. It's just no point in lowering yourself to the standards you're trying to kill. That kind of thing. If you're at war with somebody and then you start behaving just as badly as the terrorists, well, then you might as well just be killed by somebody better because you're suck too. You're just a terrorist too. If you're going to resort to their tactics, that's failure, not success. Kind of a thing. So anyway, there's just so many people who just don't want a stand-up, straight-up fight. They just want to get their cheaty win. It's just about winning. It's not how you play the game or any of that kind of principle stuff. So, where else to go? So, like, for example, the Piro. So I've made this argument about a lot of subjects that your life isn't just what you experience. It's about the fact that for you to exist, all the retarded people have to exist, and all the people in the mental institution exist, and all the homeless people exist. So all the losers have to exist for there to be a winner. You can't have an Olympics and nobody loses. No, there'll be a lot of losers. For the one winner that gets the gold, or even the 3 guys that get medals, the bronze guy is going to feel like a loser anyway. There's a lot of failure for those victories. And I don't think most people consider that. So most people just sit there and say, oh yes, the Olympics is a great idea because, look, it makes wonderful winners. And they really don't think about all the people who, broke their back in training, got paralyzed, all the wretched refuse that is the price paid to have your Mega Man. And so Pirro just keeps, in every one of his arguments, ignoring these connections between what you have or what you get and who pays for it, and the idea, and he just doesn't see any connection. And so his response video is, again, just a video about what he thinks and what he feels, and it doesn't recognize that the people who don't feel the way he feels didn't get to make this choice, and they would have voted against it, and their votes being ignored. The democracy is not recognizing them. And they essentially, because the stakes are very high, have a right to veto. They have a right to say no. And you have an obligation to listen. So the argument of this pet ownership comes up, and there's huge liabilities to pet ownership. It isn't just fun and games. It isn't just all happy little dog picture, with the family and blah, 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 blah. We know the cost is pit bulls that actually kill people and maim them and rip their faces off and tear their babies to bits. And then we have a ton of animals that are tormented by shabby and crappy owners. And then we have crappy breeders who, torture and maim and injure and harm many hundreds of thousands, millions of animals perhaps. And then we have the incidental, less bad but still bad owners who just dump their pet on the street. And so there's a huge price paid for this little picture you're going to draw of the splendor in the grass with your little happy dog. And he never wants to account for that. Instead, he's going to use some silly description of what he thinks life is, which is, well, I'm just a collection of molecules, and my molecules could have just been a rock, and I'd rather my molecules be something more interesting than a rock. And, using silly examples. And so if you're going to do that metaphor thing, you could also just say, you could have been, the average rat or the average mouse weighs maybe a few ounces, right? So you could have been 200 mice instead of one human. And in a sense, it would have added up to a lot more conscious experience. 200, 400 ears and 400 eyes, and 100 and 200 mouths to taste with, and all that's, and 100, 50 penises to fuck with. Well, 100, all that kind of stuff. So, or you could have been 1/10 of an elephant. But it's just stupid to sit there and say it's about your molecules. It's not about your molecules. It's about the systems that these things are dependent on. And they're all part of systems. And you have to defend the system. It's not like, you could metaphor it to like a machine. And you could say, well, it's a great machine because one of the parts is made out of platinum and is really great. But all the rest of the parts are crap and cardboard, and the machine won't work more than 10 seconds because all the other parts suck. You don't sit there and say it's a great machine because one part is good. You have to recognize it for the whole package you're buying. And the whole package you're buying when you endorse pet ownership is the package that exists. And you can't keep claiming, well, they could fix that, and they could fix that, and they could fix that, and they will fix that, and they will fix that. Because we know from the examples of history that we don't fix it. That the problem remains for, a very long time. the right to die doesn't exist. He keeps claiming that it's okay to impose life because someday people will have the right to die. Well, you don't, again, this is this nest building argument. You don't talk about how all the nests in the future are going to be really great while you're laying your eggs in shit. And so again, he keeps justifying that we should be allowed to do it because if we did it better, it would make sense. But we're not doing it better. So until you do it better, you can't say it's justified. You have to justify it first. You have to show that you can do it right. You can't just keep promising to do it right. And his promises are empty, vacant. They don't have any substance to them. So, so, it's an unpleasant thing to say, but I mean, yeah, it's like the veganism argument or anything else. I'm sorry you like eating meat. It's not that hard to get over it, frankly, from my own personal experience. I mean, maybe for you it's going to be much, much more difficult and all that stuff. Well, I'm sorry. It doesn't change the facts that, it's the only rational way to approach your life is not to be terrorizing and torturing and tormenting animals and paying for it and endorsing it. The least you can do is continue to eat meat but say, yeah, I suck, but don't suck as bad as me. You could at least say that. The same thing with pet ownership. You could say, I can't help myself, I need a friend. A friend who's too stupid to know what an asshole I am. So, I mean, the only people I can fool into living with me are dumb animals. Isn't that the truth? But don't pretend it is a good idea. Don't pretend it's something that human beings shouldn't get over. And it's something they can get over. You can live a fulfilled life without capturing some dumb animal to be a servant to your emotional needs. You can do it. And it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to be free of those addictions. It's like any drug addiction. It's so sensible to say you're better off free of an addiction. You're better off self-contained and capable of self-maintenance, not dependency. And it's just a dependency. And I think it is, in a way, a distraction that keeps people caught up in the game, in the immediacy of the game, rather than the big picture. It's a way of running away from recognizing the nature of the existence you're part of, because you have the distraction of this caregiving and these emotional exchanges to keep you from thinking too much. It's not a positive thing. It's a negative thing. It's escapism. And so none of these arguments will be dealt with. There's just, and people just keep talking about, adoption's good. Adoption's good. It just creates an industry. It just creates the problem. So it's better than, overtly buying the pet. But it's always going to be a supply and demand argument, and the fact is you can't guarantee that you are going to give the animal, you're going to liberate it from getting run over, or liberate it from getting cancer, or liberate it from some very bad ending that you have the power to control. But you don't. You just can increase the odds. You might be able to give it more of a chance, but you still can't clean up the mess if it goes catastrophic. It's still dangerous what you're playing with. It's still radioactive, so to speak, and if it goes wrong, you're not going to be able to clean it up. So why mess with it? Why play with something you can't clean up when there's simpler things to play with that can't go catastrophic? So anyway, the arguments won't be dealt with. And they certainly won't be dealt with in some rational way about what we really are here on this planet, because they're always going to keep trying to evade the subject. And when you start talking about your life as being the destiny of your molecules or your elemental atoms or something, it's just too silly. Especially when they're replaced every 100 days, by the drifting tide of energy and the bits. The quanta, anyway. So it's really just about, in a sense, there's 10 good principles you can come up with maybe to live by. First do no harm, those kind of things. Revenge is stupid, and two wrongs don't make a right. That's sort of the revenge argument. So you could put those together, and then you could put together these little axioms about the nature of existence and the fact that we are just need machines. We bring need into the world. We don't find need and resolve need that needs to be fixed. We make the need problem by existing. We cause the need, the mess that needs cleaning, the deprivation that needs satisfying. And there's no reason to create deprivations that don't deprive anything if they don't exist. My twin brother isn't in purgatory. My triplet brother isn't in purgatory, going, oh, I wish I existed. Oh, my God, I don't exist. Oh, lament, lament. I mean, I could just go on and on. All the million clones that could be possibly made of me, with scientific technology, they're all not sitting somewhere right now, with spikes in their ass, waiting to get on the bus of being alive. They're not deprived. They're not in a negative state. They're not a mess that needs to be cleaned. I'm the mess that needs to be cleaned. I'm the feeling thing that can go catastrophic. I'm the thing that's dangerous, not the non-existent things. Non-existent things aren't dangerous. They aren't doom-written. They aren't negative. They aren't anything that needs attention. And you don't want to think about that fact that that's the better state of being. Something that isn't looking for a way to feed on the world that exists. Hungry. Reoccurringly hungry. Over and over again hungry. In need. So that was another thing about even in the pet observation. The one... I had a dog when I was young, and the first dog I had died on its first birthday. Second birthday, I think. I just can't remember. It seems like I had the dog for 2 years, so it's hard for me to think that I only had it for a year. So it just doesn't seem to add up, as we had so many good times together. But genetic defects, tragic, horrible, awful. So, yes, my parents let me get another dog, which is really stupid. Okay. Because in your teen years, you just don't have the time that you should devote to it. And then I went a little neurotic, and I didn't have a place to live, so I had to get rid of the dog, and blah, 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 blah. And then I ended up with a cat, and then the cat died tragically. And so the point I'm just making is, even though a couple of animals had died, I really wasn't off pets. But when the cat died, that was it. That was where I knew, why do this? This is horrible. There's no way to, I'll never get the image of the cat out of my head. Its last moments. It's, you've got, I don't even want to tell this story, but it's just so sad. Just a horribly sad story. And that was it. Yeah, I didn't need any more of that. That was just unacceptable. And I just couldn't ever imagine stepping into that mud again, stepping in anything like that. So the cat was... I mean, it wouldn't have mattered, I guess, in some respects. It was just the fact that change was going to have to happen eventually anyway. But it's like our lives were very interconnected in the sense that Kat slept on top of me every night. And we had a whole bunch of these routines that are just woven into each other's lives. And there was no breaking that without it being quite uncomfortable. And again, for that relationship to end in any kind of negative way was just horrible. And I said, yeah, that's it. I don't see any point in this. This is crazy. It's an insane process. No reasonably sensitive human would do this on purpose. Knowing that this is how you're always putting yourself at risk for this bad ending. And even the good endings still suck. And you know they're going to happen. So it's insane. It's literally insane. And why doesn't that work on other people? And you're saying, well, yeah, maybe they have to have the personal experience. Maybe they have to see some of the guilt blood on their hands. I could have done something. Maybe I could have done something different. Maybe I could have prevented it somehow. I mean, even though I don't think there's anything there wasn't anything I could do about what happened, I still feel I should have done something, even though there's nothing I could have done. Who wants to live a life like that? And so I'm just saying that, I can't just tell the story and say, okay, then you understand. No, people won't understand. It's like people have to feel it. They have to taste it to know what it is. And I guess that's the problem there. I guess enough of well, see, that doesn't even work as an argument either. I guess it's just in the nature of their sensibilities. They're just glib. They're glib emotionally. Not just in their attitudes and their way of being, but in their fundamental core is nihilistic and selfish. And it just really doesn't get nailed by this stuff. And you sort of can understand some of that, because you say, yeah, why do we have a society where we're borrowing our children's money when we're supposed to love children? How does that make any sense? I mean, obviously people don't love children very much. And they do take so little interest in their development and, being, making their kid into somebody who's worthy, They do just seem to treat it like a puppy. They don't think it's a job making a human being. That they don't have to do anything. You just throw the ingredients in the bowl, and the bowl will somehow make the good person pop out. So I guess they're so simplistic and so silly in their understanding of the reality of our adventure here on Earth that they can watch horrible things happen and they just say, I didn't feel a thing. And, even if it's their own kids. You can sort of see it. I mean, I saw that in my own parents. My own parents were way too calm considering, what some of the things that went on, and so that it is something more fundamental in the difference in our characters, because I couldn't have been as relaxed as them when you know what kind of danger exists in the world and what just through accidents can happen. And my parents seemed quite comfortable that I'd take off in the morning and wouldn't show up until night, and they didn't worry too much about where I was or what I was doing. And I know I would be pretty damn curious and pretty worried. So it's something in the nature, I guess, of how we live our lives that makes the difference between these people that can be so glib in the face of horror and torture, because they really do feel a sense of immunity, and they really don't think it's going to happen to them. and they really don't understand that when it's happening to somebody else, it's the same thing as it happening to them, because their brains are made of the same stuff. And although we all feel a little bit special, the feeling part isn't special. The thinking part is not special. It's everybody's doing it, and I guess they just don't sense the threat as personally when they see it happening to their kind. I guess. I mean, I don't know if it would be different if I could clone them, and the clones had exactly who they are right now. I clone them exactly with their whole identity, and then just create 10 of them. And then they sat on and then I made the original just sit on a couch and watch the 9 others go out into the world, and whether they would feel any angst knowing that those consciousnesses are just as special as they are, and they're going to face these different kinds of risks and experiences. And will they feel the pain when they watch one of their clones fall into a catastrophe pit? Will it hurt them? You wonder that even then they might not feel anything. Yeah. So, anyway, it's just the way, I'm a bit emo or something. I've been thinking about just how I'm becoming so intolerant of it. I just can't watch it anymore. It's just so, one cat's been deaf for quite a while, and it's not the end of the world. I mean, you have to worry every time he goes on the driveway. I have to try to deter him, so I have to try to find a way he doesn't associate me with a negative thing, so I don't want to just kick him in the ass, but, I have to make the driveway not a good experience somehow. So he thinks about it twice before he goes out there. And now the other cat's going blind. And, it's just hard to watch. I mean, there's moments when the cat's lying down with the other cat and everything's okay, but it's blind. It's going blind. And I watch it bang into things. And, some people, I guess, would videotape that and put it on YouTube and laugh. But it's killing me. I mean, it's literally killing a piece of me to watch this unnecessary trauma that this animal has to go through. And that I don't have there's not some great solution. It's a feral cat. I can't even pet it. It's even to have it put to sleep is going to be a procedure that it's going to be very unpleasant for that cat, and I don't want to do it. I don't have a stomach for any of this anymore, and so that's been going through my mind. How it's becoming harder and harder. Even though I know the right thing to do is, it's not a good enough answer either. They're just all shitty answers, and I'm sick of shitty answers. I'm sick of this stinking, half-cooked, half-baked, just completely underdone, this completely insufficient existence. These assholes keep thinking is good enough. The world's just fine. No, it isn't. None of this is just fine. It's so fucking below just fine. And, it bothers me, just that it's bothering me so much. I mean, maybe I'm just having like I said, it might just be an emo period, and maybe I'll get a little stronger, but it almost feels like I'm spiraling into some sort of, empathy spiral. And that it's just going to get harder and harder to witness any of it. So anyway, that's just a personal thing. But anyway, So yeah, anyway, so many things going on. I'm working the physics stuff, and I have some cameras to play with and do some stuff with. I want to get some underwater. I got some really cheap camera, $6 camera, and so yeah, I can afford to have a catastrophe without it breaking me. But yeah, it's weird here that there's lots of nature here, but the aquatic life has not thrived. So it's a little tricky finding a suitable place to videotape something actually alive. But anyway, I'm working on it. And yeah, I don't know if there's any specific purpose to that exactly, but I guess it's something I do because I sort of enjoy doing it, so I guess there must be something to it as a exercise, but I don't know exactly whether it's very productive for the overall function of my channel. So, but whatever, of the many projects, and then there's lots of the physics stuff going on all the time in my head, and it's becoming clearer and clearer, and eventually, there should be some recognition of the clarity it produces in me and should produce in others. In the sense, as an alternative explanation, it's so much more coherent and straight line-ish and simple. So anyway, yeah, so I think that's it. Look around, see if there's anything in particular. I don't think so. So yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to respond to in the future, but like I said, it's sort of like I'm so focused that you could almost make a subject out of any sentence spoken. As I am words or they just don't slide by anymore. I mean, I do think about the words and what they represent as concepts, and how that's part of the inefficiency of our language is the fact that we haven't rigidly and with high precision defined words. That's sort of a problem. So anyway, like a concept like unacceptable. People say it all the time. Well, it's unacceptable. But they accept it. So how could it possibly be unacceptable when people accept it? So that kind of stuff just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, enough. So till the next time. And such. So forth and whatnot.